These are the kind of young men we inspire to produce from our community.
What's up, y'all? I got another one for you. So go back and watch this whole video. So old Cornell X here says, these two brothers, our community, this is the kind of brothers that our community, you know, is inspired by. These are the kind of brothers that, our community, we want to be producing. But wait a minute. These brothers just got caught in the midst of whoredom. These two brothers are what you call whoremongers, according to the scriptures. And Cornell says, our community, we need more brothers like this in our community. But let's go to the scriptures because, we ought to obey God rather than men, right? All right, so let's go to the book of Sirach, chapter 16, because Cornell says, this is the kind of people that our community needs, that we need to produce more of these brothers like this in our community. You see, just straight off. He's way off. So verse 1 says, desire not a multitude of unprofitable children. You are unprofitable to the Most High when you don't have his commandments, when you're not keeping God's commandments. Neither delight in ungodly sons. You are ungodly when you are behaving as a whoremonger, when you don't have enough self-discipline to say that, maybe I shouldn't be in this pool, with my brother, and this woman, this drunk woman is making advances towards us. You see? I mean, why would you want to be exposed in front of your brother anyway? That's kind of that's off. Why would you want to lie in bed naked with another man in the bed, and both of y'all are on top of one woman? That is some homosexual type tendencies going on. All right, verse 2, it says, though they multiply, rejoice not in them. We don't need a whole bunch of brothers in our community who cannot maintain or who cannot contain themselves. Every chance they get, they gotta engage. You see, we need more brothers who can say no. You see, I'm not doing this with you. You see, so though they multiply, rejoice not in them. Cornell X rejoicing in these brothers. They just got off. They got off of rape charges only because they had a video. They have some evidence that this woman was in a relationship with one of the brothers. The other brother, he was just a add-on, an addition. You see, he could have got caught up. So it says, rejoice not in them, except the fear of the Lord be with them. How do you fear the Lord? You got to keep God's commandments. That's how you fear the Lord. When you go to the book of Psalms, chapter 111, verse 10, it tells you the only way you have fear of the Most High is if you keeping his commandments. You see, the Christian church said the commandments are done away with. We don't have to do none of these things anymore. We don't have to abide by God's laws and regulations. We can abide by the white man's laws now. That's not fearing the Most High. So verse 3 says, trust not thou in their life. Don't trust in your son or daughter and if they're not keeping the commandments, because anything could happen. If they not walking in the commandments, if they not walking in the light, according to Proverbs 6:23, the commandment is a lamp to our path. Don't trust in their life. So how can you trust in your child's life if they're living a life of debauchery, whoremonger? They live in a life of theft and crime. You see, they're not keeping God's laws and commandments. You see, they don't want to marry because they feel like now I'm committed. You see, I can't sleep around no more. You see, now they out there catching all kind of diseases, HIV, So you cannot trust in their life. Neither respect their multitude. For one that is just, one that is keeping God's laws, is better than 1,000. See that? Most High says you're better than 1,000 children if you keeping God's laws. Think about that. Look what else Most High said. He says, and better it is to die without children than to have them that are ungodly. Damn. Just think about that. Most High says it's better not to have children at all if they're not going to be willing to keep God's commandments. Wow. That's crazy. That's something to ponder on. So Most High is telling you that keeping these commandments is better. It's better to keep the commandments than not keep the commandments. You pretty much dead to him if you don't have commandments. You're not living by the commandments. That's how serious it is when you people in the Christian church say, we don't have to keep Sabbath days holy no more. We don't have to be married to the woman that we sleeping with. He considers you unprofitable. That's what this is saying. You are unprofitable to the Most High if you're not keeping God's laws. Now let's go to the book of Hebrews chapter 13, verse 4. The Israelites teach this all the time on the streets, but people in the Christian church, they call us a hate group, for teaching young men and women to be married. Make it make sense. So verse 4 says, marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled. So Most High says, if these two brothers was married to one woman, this would have never happened to them. The brother, one of the brothers had to sell his house and everything to get attorney fees paid. Quanell X ain't cheap. So this is a commandment to be married. If you lay with a woman, you should be married to that woman. That's what the scriptures say. So when you go to the book of Exodus, chapter 22, verse 16, it tells you if you lie with a woman, if you entice a woman and lie with her, you should be married to that woman. You see, once you marry that woman, it's kind of hard for her to go to the police and say, he raped me. Your bed is undefiled in that case. You see, your bed is honorable. You are deemed honorable when you are married to that woman that you lied with. So had this man been married and his wife run and call the cops, the judge is liable to say, you know what, you married to this man. He's honorable in my eyes, you see. That's why it's so important to keep God's laws. So it says marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled, but whoremongers and adulterers God will judge. That was judgment being handed down from the Most High. When you at risk of going to prison for the rest of your life, all because one woman said, you raped her. You see, now you done spent all your life savings. You emptied out your 401k and everything to get your name cleared. You see? So what y'all think? Put in the comments. Are these brothers moving righteously? They have a badge and a gun and they getting caught up in some nonsense like this because they not keeping God's laws? Put in the comments. And what should happen to the woman that filed these charges against these brothers? A false witness. I think she should do some jail time for that. Put in the comments. Shalom.